Hey everybody! In this month's gel press video, I'm just going to show you some really fun, simple ways to use alcohol ink and stencils on your gel press. I've done a million alcohol ink gel press videos and I love all of them, but every time I get them out, I find a different way to use them both with stencils and without. I love this big leaf stencil, and what's cool about stencils is they stick to the gel press. So the odds that you're going to get a very clear image from your alcohol ink pattern is very good because of the way that a stencil adheres to the gel press, even with, as you can see here, a very well-loved and paint-covered stencil. This is one of my favorite stencils. Now I am using my brayer here. This is a technique that I like to do with stencils and alcohol ink just to get sort of an ombre look, and you can see that the pattern gets transferred to my brayer cleaning sheet as well. So now I will lift this off of here and just dry the alcohol ink a little bit. But you can see what a clear pattern you get with those leaves, even with my paint-covered stencil. So now you just need a little tiny bit of white paint, and you really need to not put very much paint on this layer. As I always say in my classes, lift layers are thin layers. You really want to be able to see the alcohol pattern beneath the paint when you go to lift it. A lot of times the mistakes that you can make when you're gel printing, and there aren't a lot of mistakes, honestly, but if you get results you don't like, it's either from too much paint or it's from dry paint. Those are the two biggest reasons that things don't turn out the way I plan them to turn out. So it's always a good idea just to sort of get in the habit of doing those thin lift layers, and you'll get great results. You can see how vivid and perfect this is. You can see how clean my plate is. This is just a great way to use alcohol ink. Now, because I'm feeling sort of botanical, I have another botanical stencil here, and you can see me sort of getting the air bubbles out between the stencil and the plate. That's another way that you can make sure that you get a really good registration of your print. Just look for the spaces where the stencil is a little bit white, and you can see where I missed a couple spots. You can actually see the alcohol ink right now running underneath the stencil. That won't happen when you get all of those little bubbles pressed out and that gel press has grabbed your stencil really, really well. So here again, I'm doing sort of a rainbow theme. I love the way this looks. And I'm just dropping in little bits of my favorite rainbow colors. And then I will smooth that out with a brayer. Now you see me changing out the paper here. Look how beautiful that is. Oh my gosh, that's so pretty. You see me changing out the paper here because alcohol ink is very sticky. So you want to make sure that your brayer is not covered with it and that it's not sticking to the paper. But the brayer cleaning sheets from this sort of work are so pretty. Now, after this is dry, I'll do the same thing. I'll just lift it with some white paint and put that out. Now, you can see I had way too much paint here, so I wasn't taking my advice from the first little episode. So I will have to transfer all that extra paint over to my brayer cleaning sheet several times and make sure that this is a thin enough layer to be able to effectively lift my paint. Now I'm protecting that top brayer cleaning sheet area because it's so beautiful. And then I thought I would put the other leaf stencil onto the white paint and lift that out of that background. So I'll have white paint I'll have little extra free leaves over here, but then I'll also have the alcohol ink underneath. So I wanted to see what that would look like. This is my 5x7 gel press, and I just cut a piece of copy paper in half. And here you go. You can see both of these patterns, and that is a really, really fun look. That is a fun way to do this. Now, if you were doing it with a color other than white paint, that would also give you a very different look. Both patterns would be more pronounced if you did it with a darker color than white, because wherever the white of the lifted texture is and where that meets the white of the paper, you're going to lose that registration and that pattern. So if you put a darker color on top, that will work great as well. So again, playing with rainbows here, and see what I mean about my brayer sticking to my paper. So one, never put your brayer down, business end down for one thing, but also make sure it's cleaned off before you put it on its back on that little cleaning sheet. Now you can see how the pattern transfers over to the brayer cleaning sheet. You can also do this deliberately. I have a few videos on this. That is a really super fun way to use your gel press and your brayer, even without your gel press. So you can see all of that goodness that's on my brayer. So much fun. So now I brought a little air can over here for drying. This isn't my preferred way to dry. I actually have a hand dryer that I like to use, but you can use that in a pinch. It's just not my favorite. Now I wanted to show you something else that you could do with this. So I have a piece of Yupo that I'm spraying with alcohol, and I'm taking my brayer that has all that great ink on it, and I am rolling it deliberately on this sheet of paper, and you can get like really nice, beautiful sort of mixed patterns from just what's on your brayer, and you can use those for backgrounds as well. This also works with mineral paper if you have mineral paper. Regular cardstock typically doesn't hold up to that much alcohol, but you can see how much ink it took off my brayer there. So it's worth keeping a bottle of that around so that you can have some little bonus pieces for your background. Now, don't ask me why I'm using such small pieces of tape to hold my little piece of paper down, because it keeps coming off and sliding around, and I'm sorry about that. So I'm going back in. Apparently, I haven't learned anything. I had the perfect amount of paint on my first pull, and now I'm just putting too much paint down. So you really just need just a tiny amount, a little bit more than pea-sized, and it'll work perfectly. And I'll add a little bit of texture to this print with the trusty old bubble wrap. Always fun. And then pull this print. Again, since I'm using white paint, that texture in the background will be pretty subtle, but it will be there in the places where you can see the ink through the front of the print. So I will pull that back, and you can see what I mean. Wherever there is that colored alcohol ink, you'll see those little bubble textures, and it's just so much fun. It just adds so much little simple things. So here you can sort of see these side by side, the ones with texture, the ones without texture, the combination of the two different stencils in the middle, and it's just so much fun. So now we will switch to a non-sort of organic pattern. I love this Starburst stencil, and apparently so does Maddie. She felt like she needed to come up here and give her input on this. But this is a great stencil to use with this technique. So you've seen the leaf one, which is very detailed, and you can see how well that works with alcohol inks. But this one is much bolder, so you're going to get a lot more of that rainbow color down onto your print. And look, you can see I still have some leaf patterns because that leaf stencil is underneath there. So your brayer cleaning sheet should not be overlooked. That is just a fact. So I'll go in the same order. and do the rainbow. And this would just be for a card or a project where you wanted a lot more of that color on your print. So we will transition to the blue and the purple, and I'm just doing 2 colors here and then mixing them as I go. That allows the other colors to just kind of dry on the plate, and you just have to clean your brayer in between each one. And then you get a nice gradient from your alcohol ink that you wouldn't get if you weren't using the brayer. You can absolutely do it without the brayer step, and you'll just get a different kind of sharper look with more hard edges. But I do like the blending on these little rainbow designs. So we will, once this is dry, so here, let me show you something. If you just flip the plate over, you're going to see what it's going to look like with white paint. So you can always check the underside of your gel press to see what you're going to get. So now here, I'm going to use an iridescent medium mixed in with my white paint to get just a little bit of shimmer along with the beautiful colors and the white paint in the background. This is one of my favorite products to use to just make my projects feel a little bit more glamorous. And it's awesome because it's clear, so it'll react beautifully with any color of paint that you choose. But of course, I'm just doing the white. And I'm leaving the sort of spots where it wasn't mixed. You can mix the paint a little bit better, but I actually like the white to sort of move in and out of my design, and you'll see what I mean when I pull this print. This medium functions sort of like a matte medium, except it's iridescent. So it really works beautifully with everything. So here you can see what I mean, where some spots got more white paint than others, but it's very shiny and shimmery. And I just love that look. It's both grunge and also very bold and solid. So here I will let you see all of these together. They are so much fun and all so different. Let me line them up for you. There is the rainbow sunburst. Here, I'll protect that from the paint. And then all of the leaf prints. Here's the one with bubble wrap, which is fantastic. Here's the one with the 2 stencils that I used together. And then this is the very first one that I did with the bold leaves and the white paint. So I hope you just have a good play with your alcohol inks and paint. And I would love to see your work if you want to tag me on Instagram or Facebook. Here are the finished cards that I made with these prints. Head over to my blog for more information, and thanks so much for watching.